like, what's it like being a CEO? I said, well, imagine waking up every day, you go to your desk, and there's a giant pile of shit there. And every day you got to solve it and figure it out.
You just rolled into the smartest small town in fitness. Welcome to Smittyville, where the trainers level up. Big reps, big vision, yeah, we're building it up. Smartest small town in fitness. Pull up, lean in, with Mayor Chris Smith and Chrissy Van. A podcast for personal trainers. Let's get to work.
CEO. That was not an intention of yours, as I understand it. Just kind of landed here through some hard work and hustle.
Yeah, I woke up one day, Chief Energy Officer.
How did that happen? Because I don't think we have ever talked about it. Like, when did you know that that was going to be the next step or the next path?
I think when I, originally came to Canada, it was, pursuant to like, hey, that was a possibility, but there was certainly no implicit guarantee or whatever. One thing led to the next, and I went from COO to COO and president, and then from, president and COO to kind of president and CEO of what was then the Steve Nash, clubs, that group of clubs, which included some crunch in UFC gyms at the time of the bankruptcy and the pandemic time. And then just kind of came out of that and kind of maintained the title. But I've been doing, executive leadership for over 20 years now. And then really, I would say kind of in the C-suite for the last 12, 15 years, it seems, a while. So that's kind of how it came about. I mean, to give you, I guess, a story that people might find crazy is, so, I had that in those days, the then chairman of the board told me, he said, hey, we're going to have this board meeting. During this board meeting, I don't want to put undue pressure on you, but, I have discussed with the board about making you the CEO officially, but, you're going to need to like kind of, pass this board meeting, like pass the test. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. So obviously I worked even extra hard to like crunch all the numbers, put all the data in my head, 29 locations, P&L, real estate, strategy, tactical, everything, finance, whatever, all of it, just downloading it, right? So it's like downloading for a final back in university days times 10, right? Literally pulled an all-nighter, flew to Montreal, meeting was in Montreal, stayed up all night studying, meeting started like 8 a.m., got to the meeting. And then we were getting set up in the board meeting. They said, hey, do you mind if we go to the breakfast room and have a breakfast meeting? And just maybe start in there with some light discussion, and then we'll move back into the boardroom. And I said, yeah, sure, whatever you guys want. And so we had our board, and then we had the observers of the board. So there's like 6 or 7 of us, and then there was one individual on the phone, another board member. We got in there and breakfast started, and they started peppering me with questions. And they were hammering, and they weren't easy questions necessarily. Some were more difficult than others, and thoughts and ideas and this and that. And what about this ratio? And how do you look at this club versus that club with this and that? And how do you, whatever, just a lot of stuff, right? Very detailed. And it went on for like 2 hours. And this is a pretty, sophisticated type situation where like, people are bringing food to these gentlemen and ladies as this kind of meeting is taking place. And I'm not eating because I can't. I just have to answer questions. And I had a binder. I still had my binder and my books with me, but never once put them on the table. And I prepared, right? So like 7 P's, proper planning prevents piss poor performance. I had prepared. I was ready. Like I was ready to rock and roll, right? And so I answered all their questions, and literally we finished breakfast, maybe, and it wasn't quite 2 hours, but right up against it. And then really at the end of the meeting, they kind of looked at each other and says, well, I think Chris is ready to be the CEO. And they're like, yeah. And then they just kind of started clapping and said, congratulations, you're the new CEO. And I was like, what the frick just happened? Like, that was crazy.
And then you're like, now can I have breakfast?
I mean, there was like a motion made, and it was like, well, we better actually officially call this meeting to the minutes and to this and that, so you could actually have board minutes and whatever, right? And to do it in an official capacity. But yeah, I guess I would call it final exam was a bit of a curveball. It's like, well, what hasn't he prepared for? Well, he probably hasn't prepared for just like, let's see how much of it he really knows versus can he find it in his binder, or can he give himself a reminder or reference? Like, let's see how much of it he knows. And again, I've always kind of prided myself on like, I know my shit, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, but I took extra care and, time to kind of really go study all the, nuts and bolts.
And you clearly were familiar with executive leadership and how that entire world works before stepping into this role, obviously. But what surprised you most about what it means to be a CEO?
Yeah, I guess it's not necessarily a surprise. It's more the realization of, and it's the action of like really taking responsibility and understanding that like when things go wrong at different levels, it's always your fault. I tell my team all the time, and I say it in a very genuine way, if something's not going right, well, it's my fault. No, no, you had nothing to do with this. Well, no, I did. I didn't prepare you for that. And now you've made certain mistakes, which we're talking about now, but that's my fault. I didn't prepare you for that. I didn't train you for that. I didn't teach you that part of the business yet, or whatever it is, right? Like there's always things there. So I think it's one of those things, like it's easy theoretically to say that, right? Like, well, the chief executive officer, servant leadership, you hold the most responsibility. And those are all talking points and they're real, but the actuality of like really understanding that and seeing it play out. Because to me, it was also a bit of a disappointment, right? Especially if I thought it was a controllable situation where it's like, I should have known that.
Mm.
I should have prepared them for that. I should have known that they were going to find themselves in a situation like that as a vice president, as a district manager, as a general manager, whatever position they hold, right? And I should have prepared them so that we didn't end up in this situation that now requires additional level of effort to fix it, right? Just based on some stuff that could have been solved.
What were kind of some more of those early leadership lessons that you kind of had to learn trial by fire that you would only learn on the job that have really shaped you into the kind of leader you are now?
Early on, I think, yeah, there's always ego and pride and envy and all those things that, kind of go into, I think, young individuals in general, right? And so for me, I certainly had all those flaws. And I think early on, it was really like, I want to be promoted. I want to be promoted. Like, when can I be promoted? Like, asking whoever's above me. And I think it was somebody that, politely or gently or not so gently said, you need to shut the kind of blank up and you'll get promoted when we're ready to promote you, kind of thing. And then really, then it turned into a more meaningful, thoughtful conversation around, you'll almost certainly never get promoted when you want to be promoted, right? It's always going to be on either before you're ready or after you're ready, but almost not certainly on like the day is the day of like, okay, now you're ready. That's just not necessarily practical, pragmatic necessarily. And certainly for giant Fortune 500 corps with massive HR departments and succession planning, workflows, like it's possible that, yeah, you try to obviously want people to be as ready as you can be, but usually you're not kind of there. Now, so I took that as, okay, well, how can I basically figure that out? And then I had another mentor at one point that said, that, the other thing you do is like, if you want to get promoted, you should be doing the job you want before you ever have it. So then I really took that one to heart. Say, okay, well, then if I want to be this or I want to be that, I just got to learn how to do that. And it wasn't like I was trying to take somebody's job away from them. I would always be trying to push people up, not pull them down. But I'm just going to go after and just, again, be the best version that I can be. And like, how can I do more? And how can I help? What else can I learn? Where can I grow? And a lot of those things, I think, for me, structurally kind of paved the way.
Well, you ended up obviously in this seat, but I'm curious, all that preparation, what's something in your day-to-day work life that you spend a surprising amount of time doing that maybe would surprise somebody that doesn't get to see behind the C-suite door?
Yeah, even at this stage of my, I think, tenure and time in the industry and the business and, yeah, as an executive, it's really just, I'm really trying really hard to transition to just being a better listener. So I just get on some calls and meetings. I sit there for 30 minutes. Not my call. I have nothing to do on that call. No action. It's a direct report or two levels down, and I just want to listen. And so I just sit there and listen to learn about what is it they're dealing with, what are the challenges that they're trying to work through, how are they collaborating with partners outside of the, quote unquote core team of our business, vendors, contractors, whatever it might be, and to get that dialogue. And then again, you're available to weigh in if they're like, well, Chris, what do you think? And you can kind of give some high level direction. But I think that's the thing that I think there's often, it's like, it's a go, 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 do. And I think sometimes it's about back to like the big strategy, the thoughtful decision making, whatever comes from a place of, again, trying to understand as much as I can, right? So I'm making informed decisions and I don't want the information to be limited, right? I want as much information as I can get to make the decisions that I get to make, have to make, or whatever framework you put around it.
Well, and it's kind of cool because when we first started Smittyville, we would say, Chris Smith, CEO of Fitness World with 17 gyms. Now we're at 18 and you're growing exponentially and on this incredible path with a lot of investment in the business. So I'm curious, in that seat right now in a business that is doing rapid expansion, what are kind of the primary things as a gym owner that keeps you up at night?
Well, the only thing keeps me up at night, I sleep good. Back to the aura ring and the scores. I think my latency is abnormally low. I think it's less than 10-minute average. I think it averaged 7 minutes a night of like, when I'm ready to go to bed,
It's
it's
great
sleepy time.
latency. Well done.
Yeah, no, I'm out. I go night time. Yeah, I just think, I'm working on all sorts of different things from legal to contracts to leases. You certainly, people management, the day-to-day business. So it's the balance of strategy and tactical, right? Is kind of the deal. I'd say I probably spend more time right now back to on the growth and development. It's not necessarily investor relations, but it's banking, it's financing, it's the different lease terms in different places on different projects or things that we're looking at or facilitating. Keeping all the stakeholders, up to date on what we're doing and why. And so it's a balance, but I mean, it's more strategic than tactical, but there's still enough tactical to where, again, I want to know what I know, right? I want to have the information. I
Mhm.
want to know exactly like what's going on.
You have a leadership style where you are very involved in the day to day and like people in your business know who you are. The door is often open here. Do you ever miss being closer to the floor or because of how you lead and stay involved, you don't really get that?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say I miss the gym floor. I mean, I think it's unrealistic to, be a CEO and be on the gym floor all day, every day, right? I mean, that just doesn't go with the territory. But yeah, I think it's just about having relationships with the people that are out there all day, every day, right? And so as long as you stay connected to them in whatever way that is, then, building those relationships and maintaining them is where it's at. But I mean, I don't love this office that we're sitting in. They're not great daylight. We know that for a fact. So I wouldn't mind a nice little window or something, but someday we'll graduate to that. But for now, this is where it's at.
Yeah, that is funny. All these gyms, yet you have a room with no windows.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's part of my servant leadership. It's like, what's the office nobody wants? What's the one that just nobody really wants to be in? It's like, well, I can make it my own. I don't really care. I'll figure it out. Even at our head office in Richmond, the office I have there, I'd argue there's 3 offices that are nicer than the one I have. I gave those to my team because I don't really care. That's not going to define me having the biggest office, the nicest office, whatever. It's like, if I got a place I can sit down, conduct business, get things done, I'm good. Pretty simple.
You talked about obviously, especially being in expansion right now, having to deal with all the legalities, dealing with the financial side, but what does a typical day-to-day life look like for an gym op CEO of your level? I know there's no typical day,
Right.
but
I mean, that's the first answer. There's no typical day, but yeah, I mean, generally, I get up my days. I get up around 6 a.m. Generally speaking, I like to read, and generally, if I'm at home, that's in my massage chair. So I'll read while I'm in a massage chair for up to an hour, and I'll just read and do stuff, followed by a workout of some sort, followed by maybe a light breakfast, protein shake, something like that. Part of that reading is I will check my email for like what I would call 911s, whatever else, but there's nothing urgent, and I don't really do a lot with it. I usually look at the daily reporting. I'll skip to the end of the night. I actually look at the daily reporting for the end of the day right before I go to bed, which some people are like, that's crazy. I couldn't do that and go to sleep. It has no effect on me whatsoever. I can't change it. Like, it is what it is. The data is the data. I just want to know before I go to bed, like, where did we finish the day? And so I do a quick 5-minute scan every night of the data. And then generally not too long after that, I'm snoozing. But yeah, in between all that stuff, I guess, yeah, it just varies. I mean, I could record podcasts, like we're filming some content now, but I mean, I'll show up on other people's podcasts. It could be meetings with lawyers, bankers. I could be touring physical sites themselves. There's obviously the travel in between, getting here and there, different meetings that take place, whether it be, in the form of like in boardrooms with groups of, people. Just last week, I did what we call ACDC, which is my above club development club. So I had one day, I think I don't know, it was like a 14-hour day and I had 12 meetings, right? Where just over the course of the day, I just talked to all the GMs, a bunch of GMs and FMs in our business to say, to your point, if you're the CEO, what would you do different? What is it that you think I don't know? What are my blind spots, or what are the executive team's blind spots to the business that you think we ought to be thinking about? What are some things that we're spending time on that we shouldn't be, right? What are some things that we're not spending time on we should be? And just asking, again, the people that are the foot soldiers that are out there fighting the fights, like, what do we need to be doing? Right. And then again, you got to listen and then take all those notes and then go back and figure it out. I mean, one of them was to me urgent enough that like I changed the policy the next day. Right. And there's 2 or 3 more that we're going to work on here over the course of the business. It's just causing friction unnecessarily, right? Where it could be better for our team members or better for the members themselves. And so, and then at the end of the day, if we're making those 2 things better, then the business becomes better. So yeah, it's lots of different things, emails. I think some people are, I, when I meet people, they're like, I get so many emails a day. It's like, how many you get? And they're like, oh, like 50, dude. It's crazy. I'm like, cool. And like, how many you get a day? I'm like, I don't know, like 300, 350. Like, what? It's like, yeah, a lot. Now, again, some people could say back to discipline time management, yeah, because I'm an informed leader, or I like to be an informed leader, is I'm also, I'm highly aware of the boomerang concept, right? So if I send an email asking questions, then, and I send that to 8 people, that's 8 emails coming back. But if it's information I feel I need or want, then obviously I'm going to go try to figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I get a lot of emails. And again, some of them are garbage, or they're just a quick glance and a read and a delete. And I mean, I'm pretty fast at it. But I mean, I'll usually get 50 emails every 2 hours.
Yeah, and people
The time that we're filming this, there's probably been
yeah, no doubt.
10 or
One
15.
day we should just leave the notification sound
turn it
on.
up
Yeah,
and
and
just-
we can have a little counter
you just
for
wanna
how
look-
many
You just want
emails.
to listen to the ding.
Yeah. So I'm
Sure.
sure it's constant.
Yep.
If someone says, and I know we encounter this a lot in the trainer circuit, there's a lot of people that say, how could I get to be where you are? And a lot of times your answer is like, well, not that you can't be where I am, but how you did it. You're like, you can't because you're not me and you're a different force of nature. But for somebody that says to themselves, one day I want to be CEO, what's something you'd want them to know before they chase the goal?
Yeah. I mean, again, on my journey, I never set out to be a CEO, right? So I think if you're just showing up and, that happens for you versus like, I have the goal of like, I want to be this someday. I mean, I'm not saying that like that's wrong as much as I would say like, provided that you've got a plan that requires you to gain mastery along the way. Again, I was fortunate, right? Early days, I was training people in exchange for like, I was helping a vice president's wife in exchange. He was teaching me how to read P&Ls as a 3-year-old trainer, right? Learning how to read P&Ls at 24 Hour Fitness. Like, I don't think that was happening in very many places in the country or within the company, but I was able to ask the question, got the right answer, again, doing great work. And then the divisional president, at the time, Mr. Steve Block, and his lovely wife, Kim, who he introduced me to as her friend, not his wife. And I sold her a bunch of training, got her incredible results. That opened up the door to have him be one of my mentors and be able to go to lunch with him. And so again, the things that I was chasing is I was passionate about just being better and just growing. I never set out to be what I am today. And I have a ton of gratitude. I'm very grateful for it. And at the same time, if you told me that this was all going to be stripped away and I had to start over tomorrow, I'd be fine. I mean, truthfully, like, I'm sure I'd be upset, I'd be disappointed, and I'd have a whole range of emotions, but I'd land on my feet. I promise you that.
Let's head to the trainer circuit. Real questions, real situations. Chris shows up, listens, and mentors from experience.
You know that a lot of good leaders, they do journalists because that helps them to manage their emotions so you don't get drained. So I just wanted to know if you do that.
It's the difference for me, right? Like, I take notes in meetings to make sure I don't miss things or action items or whatever, those type of things. Don't get me wrong, like, I take notes, I have a notebook, that sort of thing. But in terms of processing that, right, for me as a leader, and back to like, so I'd say all of us, right, we woke up today with 100% of our emotional energy. You get to choose what you give it to, right? Choices and consequences. There's that part of it. The other part for me as a leader is, like, I also used to describe to people early on in my days as a CEO, like, what's it like being a CEO? I said, well, imagine waking up every day, you go to your desk, and there's a giant pile of shit there. And every day you got to solve it and figure it out. Now, at this point, I've been doing it so long, truthfully, like, I've seen all the different kinds of piles on said desk. I've got so many reps at doing this that none of that bothers me anymore. It just doesn't bother me. So in other words, I expect bad things to happen. Not that I want bad things to happen, but I expect that they will happen, and I also have now dealt with them experientially enough that I don't let them emotionally upset me, especially like negative emotions. Like, if there's a moment to celebrate and get happy and excited and like, let's make sure this person knows I did phenomenal, then like, that's in the moment of time, so you got to capture that and get after it and have fun. But if it's like, wow, that's something that should make me mad or angry or sad or bitter or resentful, I'm not even going to give that any of my emotional energy. Because of what she talked about. She said, I wanted to hear a little bit about my family, because my family deserves my emotional energy, not that situation. That's who's going to get my emotional energy. My team and the people that are doing all the good work are going to get my emotional energy in the form of positive emotional energy. I'm not going to give you negative emotional energy or let you drain some of my battery because you're going to act a fool or be silly or be disrespectful or inappropriate or unprofessional or whatever it is they're going to go be, right? But that's often our thing. Like, when you think about people being defensive or those types of scenarios, that's how you end up in that, right? It's like for action, there's equal opposite reaction. And we're talking about like the laws of physics. sometimes that happens with human emotion, right? People come to us in a certain way and we feel like we got to reciprocate. You can come to me however you want. You're just going to get what I'm going to give you. I'm not going to let you dictate how I'm going to respond, AKA get me emotional, because that's just going to be a waste of my time. Is that fair?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do not journal. If you do journal, I'm going to give you one thing to think about as you journal. And this is my advice to a lot of people. Unless you're in a mental health crisis, this is my own personal opinion. If you're in a mental health crisis where you're seeing a professional or something like that, then I do think you got to kind of just pour it all out on the page and just get it all out so you're not holding it. If you're not in that situation, what I would encourage you to do from a journaling perspective, and this is advice I give to my own children because they do journal, my children journal, is I tell them is to make sure it's focused on all the positive stuff. I almost think of it more like a gratitude journal. Because in today's world, which you guys are all living in, of social media and the negativity, and we got wars all over the place, and just everyone's telling us that the world's an effed up place and AI is going to do this to us and whatever. Just think of all the things every day that you can be appreciative of. And if you do that, I think you'll essentially mechanize in your own self that stuff we were talking about earlier, right? That ability to really perceive it, believe it, achieve it, and keep yourself on that positive mindset and positive mind frame versus allowing yourself to get sucked down this negative void of bullshit that's in the world today telling us that everything's wrong. There's a lot of stuff wrong, guys. There's a lot of stuff wrong, for sure. Most of which, in fact, probably all of which, none of us have any control over. Sadly, we don't. So in that case, what can we do? Focus on what we do control, which is our attitude. Attitude of gratitude. Be grateful. Talk about it. Write about it. I got a great family. I got a partner. I got a great roommate, thankfully. You know, I like my job. I've got a great boss. Whatever. Just think of all the simple things. I have clothes. I'm able to buy food. Like whatever. There's simple things. Just put yourself in a position to be grateful.
Before we wrap, we'll leave you with a Smithism, a lesson Chris has picked up along the way.
Smithism. Back to leadership, growth, development. I think the final question you're asking on like where do you want to go or how do you get there is like you don't have to, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. And so for me, it's like back to crisis management or people development. So again, if people are coming to me with like, what's a book I should read? Well, readers are leaders, right? We've talked about that before. But if I don't read any books and you ask me for books to read and I'm like, oh, I don't read books. Okay. That's a lost moment for me to like engage with you in probably a pretty intentional conversation. What is it you're hoping to learn, right? Like we could go through that whole rabbit hole. So yeah, I just think if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So I focus on staying ready, right? So I read, I study, I learn, I observe, I listen, I ask questions so that I'm ready for whatever's coming my way, back from the plans that I have, back to growth. Well, I want to be, and I'm going to go into franchising. So I'll just snap my fingers and that'll happen. No, I have to surround myself with advisors. I have to surround myself with people that have been there, done that. I have to do my own research on that space. I have to hire appropriate legal counsel, tax advisement, all these things to like create the best possible scenario so that can kind of go happen, right? And again, it's not an overnight process. That's at the scale of who we are and what we're doing. This has been a more than 1 year journey. We've been working on this for like 18 months to get to now where I would say we're like at the kind of 99 yard line, right? We got like one more yard to go to punch it through. But yeah, that's a lot of effort. Right? A lot of time, energy, and effort, but that was all built on, I think, the concept of, staying ready, being alert, studying.
That's today's Smithism. Chris Smith is the mayor of Smittyville, and I'm Chrissy Van, your town correspondent. This is the smartest small town in fitness. We'll see you back here every other week.